Okay, so before I see the recording has started, so before we start the lecture, so we are now after the break in the schedule of Fab Academy, and there's this mid-term also in Fab Academy this year for the first time, and it was not entirely clear what it would mean, but it effectively should mean that all of your weeks after the break should be up to date on documentation, because you can do all of the weeks remotely except for the big router type milling machine, but everything else before that should be now more or less up to date, and we will get back to you guys one by one and give you some feedback, so if there's something you want to know or you need to know to finish something, you would be able to proceed fast. And now rest of the subjects will be a little bit more chaotic. We decided, or I decided, to have a little bit more organic approach because of the resources. We have very thin resources at the Fab Lab, so we can do different subjects, 1 or 2 students per week, the hardest ones, the ones that we can do remotely. And we are working on doing almost anything remotely, but still the resources are a bit thin. So it's marvelous that some of you have already done the molding and casting mold, and I'm excited to see how that works remotely. I think we can do that. Thank you. That's all from me.
Just one comment. I will add, I don't know yet how, but I will add a kind of calendar. Just for all the students, I will add all the students there, and you can mark in which week you think you can use the machines. So in which week you are planning to do the machining for molding and casting, in which week you are planning to do the machining for, I don't know if you need to do something in the laser cutter for your final project, or 3D printer, or what is missing. Well, basically when you need to use any of the machines, because we, as Gianni mentioned, we have reduced resources, so you can only 2 people per week can use each machine more or less. We need to define that with Gianni and Mikko, and let's see. But I will try to create a calendar, hopefully beginning of next week. I will think how we can do it.
Okay, so who should start the presentations?
Perhaps Gianni can just very briefly, the wildcard week, what is expected from students, and then we can go to the particular processes that we have been thought that are a good idea for this week, given the situation.
Okay, so the wildcard week is some digital fabrication process or part of it, or the way to use a digital fabrication process that is not taught by Fab Academy otherwise. So you get to choose what you do, and we will give some examples. Due to our reduced resources, not as many as we would have liked are available at the moment. In past years, we were able to do water jet cutting, milling metal. We could actually do 3D printing, carbon fiber or metals if we wanted normally, but unfortunately now these are not available. Many of the projects involved composites, and Neil will give a good lecture on composites for the Wildcard week usually. However, that is not easy to organize this year either. So I would propose that unless you really need it for your final project, do something that you can do remotely, and we have a couple of examples of what you can do. Maybe That's it. I mean, after this lecture, we could actually maybe talk about some other options of masking and engraving something weird or something like that. But it would be a good idea to do something that you can do without waiting everyone else. So Ari, please go ahead.
Okay, I will anyway start with the water jet cutting, even though it's not easy to use it at the moment. I will share my screen. Okay, so basically with water jet cutting, you are talking about you are pushing high pressure water through a small hole, and you are adding abrasives in it, which can be basically sand materials, and you are then cutting through, for example, you can cut through different metals. In the workshop in Oulu, you can basically cut through 20 centimeter thick steel. So you can imagine it's a huge amount of power that is going on the surface to cut it through. Basically, I just found there is also this desktop sized cutter, but I have never seen that one being used, but in Oulu there is the water jet cutter called Aliko, and I created this simple tutorial video about it. Basically, you can find more detailed tutorial, for example, from Kati Pitkänen's materials, but I just created this so you can get short instructions what you can do with it and how to operate it. Basically, first you prepare the files with this iGEM software. You create the NC file for the water jet cutter, and then after you have produced that, you can work with the machine. Basically, you warm up the pumps and place the sheet on the table, and you put it steadily in there. And then you can set the water jet cutter to a correct place for cutting, and you can check that the piece fits or the water piece fits in the final sheet that you have in the machine. Pasi is doing here everything that I'm just explaining. It's in Kati's documentation, you can actually see all the buttons he's pressing in more detailed way, and she's explaining it quite well. So basically now he's soon starting to cut. You can see the water flowing in there. I speed up the video here so it will move a bit faster. Otherwise, it takes a couple of minutes to cut this star. You can see the piece was attached to the metal still with this small part. It's very important so that it doesn't drop off when it's cutting. So that's basically the in short with the water jet cutter. This was made by Kati, this aluminum frame with water jet cutter. She made it for her final project, and it sits all her parts. It's the frame of the whole thing. Basically, you can see the process to create the files in here. And there is the final piece, and then she's putting the sheet in the machine, and then there is the machine operations. Everything is shown here, what she did, so it's really well documented, and you can basically do the same thing with the instructions. So you can see the final result is this thermometer with different systems. And then in short, that's basically, probably it's not this year so easy to do water jet cutting, but basically you can do any types of parts. In Oulu, you don't have possibility to do this because the head only comes from the top, so you can only cut things below it. But with these more advanced versions, you can also cut in this angled cuts, so you can create very interesting parts. So I think that's basically about water jet cutting. And then I will move to my other subject, which is the vacuum forming. So basically, vacuum forming is a process where you soften the plastic with heat, and then you form it around a mold with first you press it down, and then you suck vacuum under it through these holes, and it will form against the mold and create these different types of parts. You can create huge amounts of different parts with this process, and it's widely used in industry. Basically, whenever you are designing something, you can either do it of plastic, you can either do it with vacuum forming or with injection molding. And basically, these two processes are really widely used in industry, in any type of plastic product manufacturing. You can see there is so many different options. You can create really large things with vacuum forming, and basically, for example, some canoes or something like that are also produced with vacuum forming. So you can do really big things. And I was using it as a process in my Wildcard week when I was doing Fab Academy in 2018. And basically I was doing this cup for water sampling in my hydroponic systems. And the thing is that you first design a mold for your part. And well, I prepared the materials with gluing MDF together to get it high enough. This mold was maybe, if I remember correct, yeah. So it's 8 centimeter is the height of this part. So it's thick enough for my piece. So I was milling it, and this is the final mold. And then in the vacuum former, you might have seen it already in the architectural department. It's a machine that is available more easily at the moment than anything else. So this might, or maybe Bernina is even easier, but this one is quite easy to reach, and it's in its own room, so it's very highly recommended that this might be one of the processes that you would use for your project. And basically you can see there is a hole in the bottom where the vacuum is sucked in the vacuum former, and you need to plug everything else with some kind of plate, and you glue your mold on top of it, align the holes, and then you put it in the machine, and then you put the polystyrene sheet in, and there is some basic information how long it takes to work with these different types of plastics, and with 2 millimeters polystyrene that I was using, it says it's 60 minutes, but in real it was more like 15 minutes maybe to get it so soft that it could be actually formed. So you set the oven on the heater on the middle section, and you can see it's now hanging. The plastic is so soft that it's basically touching the mold in the middle. And then I pulled the handle to move the plastic against the mold, and also started the vacuum right after it was pulled. So you can see it's starting to form around the mold here, and in just a few seconds it's made into this part, and it will harden quite quickly to the final product. You can see there is this webbing in my model, or in my vacuum formed part, but it's basically because this part is quite small, quite high in comparison to its size, and also there is no holes in the sides, and there are some mistakes I made, but you can make better molds when you are working with this. You can just remove it with pressurized air from the mold, and then you have your piece, and you can cut it with the bandsaw. So you can get your final product, whatever you want out of it. We just ordered a couple of square meters of this polystyrene sheet, so you should have enough materials for your own projects. You have to realize that this machine is not really big, so you cannot create anything extremely big size, but some small pieces easily. And if you are interested in this process, working with it, there is this excellent guide, this Fromac vacuum guide, and basically you can also see what's causing webbing in your pieces, and there is all the information you can possibly need in the vacuum forming process. You have different plastics and what are the uses and qualities. Then there is about the mold design, and when to use male and when to use female molds, and there is so much interesting material in this guide that it's much more thorough than I could talk in a couple of hours. So there is, if you are interested in this, I can send you the guide, and you can start to read a little bit and design your own mold in a way that it's actually better result than in the one that I did in my Fab Academy. You can see the basic process here, how it works. It explains it quite nicely. So basically what you just saw in my page. So you heat the plastic with these heaters, and then when it softens, you pull it around the mold, and then suck the vacuum in it. And as you can see, there is plenty of information about the different plastics that you can use with the machine. And well, these times are for some other machine, it's more powerful than the one that is used in the architectural department. So if you are interested, I will put this guide in the chat link, and you can download it for yourself, and you can then read it through and study about mold making and things like that, and how to avoid these problems. And this is something that is very important in the vacuum forming, that you have a little bit of taper in your mold, so you can actually remove the plastic from it and get better results also in the end product. Yeah, here you can see how there is plenty of holes in this. Yeah, also this kind of thing is possible. So there is so much information that I highly recommend reading it through and studying it yourself before you start designing your mold and think about what you want to do with the machine. If you want to have it as a male mold or a female mold, and what is the advantage of this. I think that's basically what I have to say about these things. I will put it in the files, or in the chat, this file. Okay, so somebody, Ivan probably, or Behnas, who wants to continue?
Behnas, I don't have anything to say to show today.
So I can share my screen from here. And maybe, yeah, is it good now? But I prefer not to have it in this mode because I need to switch between here and there. Maybe send it down. Okay, so I'm going to talk about digital embroidery for you. It is like most of the other processes in the Fab Lab that you have already done, like you as a human being are responsible to take care of the design and to prepare the design, and then the machine will take care of the rest. So in this process, what is different is that you can just use an image or prepare your own design, and then the graphic will be converted into the stitch. That is how the sewing machine will understand your design and will do the embroidery for you, okay? So I can show you some examples here. This is beautiful, and I can say one of the most beautiful processes, maybe because there are some themes of artwork in it. It's fascinating, but try not to be that much fascinated, because it has its own tricks and ways of doing. And as a beginner, you should start with something very simple and not too much colors, of course. So these are some examples.
Sorry, Behnas, we are seeing the slides.
Really?
The first slide, not your screen.
Okay. Okay, I should select the okay every time and then switch between them. Now you can see, yes?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. So these are some examples that might give you some ideas if some of you are not familiar with embroidery. Here, as you can see, it's just beautiful. So, and you can combine your work with other elements, and you can also consider in your final project to make it more beautiful to use this process. So these are some examples of digital embroidery, and then I switch to the presentation slides again. Okay, as I mentioned, you need to start with something simple and use only one color initially, but later on you can just use different colors. There is a possibility to use lots of colors. But to begin, start with one color or not more than 2 or 3 colors. And I recommend you to have some designs, like a few of them ready, just in case if you have failure with one of them and you cannot figure it out, and then maybe it's some kind of design like considerations that you don't know how to fix, then you can try another one. And I suggest you not to spend too much time on the design phase and to move on as fast as possible to and try to explore with the machine to see how it works, because this is how you will understand the design limitations for this process. So basically, it's just simple. You prepare your design. You can use these different softwares, for example, Inkscape, that almost all of you are familiar with. And then, yes, or you can also use a ready image, like, and you of course need to vectorize it, as you have previously learned in during different weeks, how to vectorize your image. And after you digitalize your design, after you prepare your design, it's time to digitalize it and to convert it to the stitches. You can use different software for this purpose. For example, Bernina software. We will go through it after my presentation to see what are the possibilities to, because we already have the Bernina software on some of the laptops in the Fab Lab that I don't know how would it be, maybe you can borrow it, or I don't know if we can provide you with a license or not. But anyways, we will discuss it later on. And then another program software that you can use is SuArt. It has 30 days of trial that you can try for free. And then basically it's not complicated, and you don't need to do that much of tasks inside the software. So any software that converts your design into the stitches will work. You should check definitely Marta's documentation. I have provided to you with the link. She has some good tips for digitalizing your design. Oh, I have a typo there. And then you should take note that Marta used another machine, because at that time we didn't have this sewing machine that we currently have. So maybe the file format and some other things are different, but she has lots of good tips there, and you can follow her documentation to see how you can convert your design into the stitches using the SuArt software, okay? And then after your design is ready, you should save it as a format which is understandable for Bernina machine. In the Bernina manual, I checked and it is .exp file, but I'm afraid that you cannot export as .exe file, for example, with SUART. There are some additional formats that the Swing machine will support, such as this one that I have written here. And these are some formats, that output formats that you can have by using the SUART software. So just check this kind of stuff, and after you save your design, you copy it into a memory stick and take it to the machine, because you will connect this memory stick to the machine. And just take your laptop also with you, because maybe you never know what happens. Maybe the format that you have saved is not supported with the machine, and you need to export it again, or maybe you need to modify your design. Or so anyway, take your laptop with you to the university. And in order to know how to work with the machine, it's just simple. There are a few simple steps. We had an intern from a high school student in the Fab Lab. She was exploring how to work with the sewing machine and the embroidery. So she have provided a video which is really useful. It's here. So it's just 7 minutes of video, and it shows lots of things, like including how to prepare, how to thread, and lots of other stuff. There are just a few clicks maybe with the machine that you need to set, for example, the position of the design and this kind of stuff, which is shown very well and clearly in this video. So you will follow. I don't know if you can see the video or not that I'm showing. Probably not, because I forgot to switch. Are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. I forgot to switch again. So it's this video. It's just 7 minutes, but it's really good to show you the steps of how to work with the machine. So this is some kind of a spray that you will spray to the fabric. These are in Finnish, but it's okay because it's understandable, and you can anyway translate because there are just a few words. So you should also remember to take a few fabrics with you to the Fab Lab. We have already some, but it's better to take your own with like different kinds of fabric, because sometimes maybe one fabric doesn't work very well and you need to try another fabric. Was it here? Oh, here. So this is the video that you will follow to see how to work with this, and you should also check Arash's documentation, because he was the only one, because we bought this machine last year, and he was the only one who used the embroidery process for Wildcard week. So you can check his documentation as well to see how to work with the machine and etc. And these are some extra tips that I was trying to look for you. For example, how to hoop fabric and a stabilizer together, or how to thread and bubble winding. And then there is also Bernina, the model that we have in the Fab Lab is 540 Bernina. So there is a user manual PDF here, the link, that you can just go through and see how it works. So I can say this is one of the machines that you need to explore and interact maybe more than the other machines while it is working. So sometimes it asks to you to do something. So this is the machine that might communicate with you while it is doing the job. And so here is Arash's documentation that I told you. So he has the image, and then in the next step, he vectorized the image with trace bitmap that you already know about it. And then he uses, I think, Stuart. Yes, software. No, he used Berliner software in this work. And when you use the software to convert to the stitches, it's just a few clicks, so it's simple. And then these are also like the spray and other stuff that I already went through. And the machine and etc. For threading, it's really easy. You can also follow the link that I sent to you, but because there are some numbers there and you know where to pass the thread. And that's it. And this is Marta's documentation that I told you. You can go through Marta's documentation as well. What she did was, which makes sense, was first trying to explore with of designs that already are there in the machine. They are saved to use one of them to see how it works, to understand the process, and then after that, using her own design. It's here, something that she did. As you can see in this example, for example, there are colors, but they are not interwoven. So there are just separate colors in separate elements with different colors. It is easier. And this is something that I suggest you to do if you want to do the colors. If the colors in your image, they are so close to each other, then it might be problematic. Of course, later on, you can just do it, but start step by step. Simple, one color, then maybe 2 or 3 colors of different elements with different colors, and then you can just go with more complicated stuff. So this is also how she did the converted to the stitches here, and this is the final result. That's it for now. I think just Yanni or Ivan should tell us that I don't know how we are gonna access to how we are good. Oops. How can I stop sharing? Ah, here. Okay. Ivan or Yanni, tell us how we are going to use the machine. Like, what is the setting inside the university? And
yes. So of all these processes, or of these processes we have shown, actually the easiest one to access will be the embroidery machine, because while you do need a car to transport it, we can just loan it to you. You can borrow it. You can take it to your home and you can do it this week. And so that said, so we do need the calendar so you can reserve the machine. But the first one, even if we wouldn't have a calendar, you can just first come, first served again. So this is definitely the most secure way to pass this week. I would start with this one. Then coming to vacuum forming, we do need to get you to the big milling machine. And if you intend to do the vacuum forming, you should also not only have to do something big files with you, but also for vacuum forming files. And we should carefully take care that there's material for you to be able to mill that or glue that together in the way that you could actually then vacuum form possibly at the same go, while that might be a little bit challenging, but it might be possible. So absolutely the best process for this week would be embroidery. But also, if you come up with anything, you can check the previous weeks. Anything, especially anything you can do without accessing really the Fab Lab. It's marvelous.
Okay, can I add something in case that you are going to borrow the machine from the Fab Lab? Don't forget to ask for, what was the name? For the spray, adhesive spray that we have there, for the stabilizer, and also for the hoops, because we have two different hoops with two different sizes. So you take both of them with you. So the hoops, the stabilizer, and also the spray you will need, and threads, of course.
And then I don't know if Benas, you had time to check it, but Marta told me that there's a plugin for Inkscape that should work quite well with the machine also.
Yeah, I have worked with that, but I would say when they have the option of using the StuArt software, it's more professional and it's better than that. With the Inkscape plugin, it's a little bit tricky and it's not beautiful.
I see, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So just one additional comment. You can use either SeaArt or the Bernina software. If you are planning to use SeaArt, you can install it in your computer. You have a version of 1 month for free. Otherwise, you need to pay. It's I think it was 30, 40 euros. But anyway, I mean, for this project, you can do it with the with this 30 days test. And then if you want to use the Bernina software, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because we need to install only in one computer, and it's in one computer in the laptop that is in Fab Lab. And right now we are sharing the laptop with the, I don't know if Mikko has already moved the big 3D scanner software to the new computer, but otherwise the software of Bernina is in the same place as is in the same computer, in the same machine as the big 3D scanner. So we need to think how we are going to handle that. But SeaArt is working. This is what Marta was using and Aras was using, and I think that is a good solution for this situation. So you don't need to take the other laptop. And actually, the software, Bernina software, one of the solutions, because the software is just for creating the designs. So you don't need it to control the machine. It's just for creating the design. So another option is to make it also available through some remote desktop connection. This might be also another option.
Oh, that's a good idea. It definitely would also work.
Yep.
So, any questions right now?
I will stop recording now, so it might be easier to ask questions.